The American dream in jeopardy.
Walking away is not the answer.
Fighting against foreclosures and anxious for answers.
Everybody has a shot.
Ready for a recovery and a return to home ownership.
It is my ultimate goal to own a home.
From ground zero of the housing crisis, News Channel 5 is live at the Port St. Lucie Civic Center as part of our year-long initiative to restoring the American dream. This is Impact 5, Housing Market Reality Check.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome live to the Port St. Lucie Civic Center for our special one-hour Impact 5 look at the housing crisis. I'm Michael Williams.
And I'm Kelly Dunn. This is something new for us. We will admit it off the bat, a live discussion about the housing crisis. We are in St. Lucie County, certainly one of the harder hit areas. But it is safe to say if you live anywhere from Boca to Sebastian, you or someone you know has been affected by the housing crisis.
Thank you for joining us on air, online, and of course our audience here at the Civic Center. Why are we doing it? Because we thought it was time to let you all in one place listen to a great group of experts talk about the issues that are affecting you, and not only talk about the problems, but the solutions.
Absolutely, and we're going to be taking questions from those of you at home through our social media sites, also from our audience, and we do want to try to help people, arm them with the information. I think a lot of people go through this, they feel alone, they feel like they're the only one in that predicament. You'll find tonight you're not alone.
The genesis of all this, as you said, Kelly, began about a year ago when we at News Channel 5 were hearing from a lot of you who said, listen, I'm getting a lot of information. I don't know what to do, whether it's about foreclosures, short sales. How do I get into the market? When do I sell? When do I buy? Where do I go from help? And what do I do with all the programs out there? Which one's right for me? Well, that is the beginning of Impact 5. Yes, looking at the problems. We all know what those are, but also hoping that we can help you find those solutions to move forward in your life and in the life of your community.
We have assembled a panel of housing experts to discuss the problems and the hope that remains within the housing industry. We have a good crowd here that's turned out tonight. We appreciate all of the fine folks that have come to join us here at the Civic Center. We also do want to make sure you are a very important part of this discussion. Molly Reynolds is our social media reporter, and we have a social media center. We're taking your questions via Facebook. Also, you can tweet us at WPTV with the hashtag Impact5. You can email us as well at impact5@wptv.com. We want to include you into our discussion tonight.
So let's begin by framing the issue. We're at really ground zero, many argue, for the housing crisis in Port St. Lucie and St. Lucie County. Consider this, 25,000 families in St. Lucie County lost their homes to foreclosure since 2008.
We're going to kick things off tonight with News Channel 5's John Shaman, who will give us an overview of the housing market on the Treasure Coast.
This might not look like your typical home in the middle of a foreclosure fight. The lawn is maintained, the interior is impeccable. Summer Pochask and her family built this home and moved in between hurricanes in 2004. When Summer's husband lost his job in 2009, they had to weather a financial storm. Summer contacted their mortgage holder right away to see what could be done.
They didn't want to work with me.
Foreclosure procedures were started in 2010, then dismissed in court, but refiled again earlier this year, despite the fact Pochask and her husband are both working now and willing to pay.
The only thing that I know is I have right on my side. I only did what they told me to. I kept good records. I know who I talked to.
A lot of the paperwork in Pochaska's fight has gone through the St. Lucie County Clerk's office. Clerk of the Circuit Court Joe Smith says his office has played host to foreclosure clinics put on by Florida Legal Services, and they've been working to try and alleviate the backlog of foreclosure cases.
We want to help people, find ways to stay in our homes as much as we can. We want to find other people an opportunity to get into homes where they can find it as a reasonable and a good bargain.
Numbers do show a turnaround in the county. At one point in 2008, St. Lucie County saw 956 foreclosures in a month. This past June, there were just 396. Don Wunderling is president-elect of the Realtors Association of St. Lucie. He points out pending sales for June of this year have nearly doubled from last June.
If anything, we have too few homes in the market at this point.
Wunderling says based on steady single-family home prices and the rate of sales, the county appears to have bottomed out.
I would say it is a very optimistic market right now. First-time home buyers also are doing very well in this market.
One option for first-time home buyers is with the city of Port St. Lucie, which has had a neighborhood stabilization program in place the past few years, where the city buys homes to rehab, then resells them at no profit to income-qualified buyers. But Summer Pochask doesn't want a new home. She likes the one she's in and still fears the worst, while hoping for the best outcome in her foreclosure struggle.
For 3 years, I've been doing all of this. So that shows, at least I think on my part, intent to try to work something out.
For Impact 5, John Shainman, WPTV, News Channel 5.
Back live now at the Port St. Lucie Civic Center. Now time to start putting questions to the experts and to get your questions in the audience and online. And of course on air, we're going to continue this initiative all year long as we continue to answer your questions. So let's begin with our guest. Beginning from left to right, Dr. John Tosillo, the Chief Economist for Florida Realtors. Thank you for being with us, sir. Armando Fana, the Director of HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Division, the department in Miami. Kevin Kent, a longtime realtor, familiar to many of you, 25 years experience, and agent and broker with the Platinum Properties Real Estate in Jupiter. Paul Baltrin, as I move back a lot, familiar to many of you on News Channel 5, the Director of the Homeowner Assistance Program for the Paul Krasker Law Firm. Next to him, we have Russ Holland, a mortgage banker with Seacoast National Bank, and he, along with our other guests, will be able to get some sense to you of what it's like to get into the market now, where you can be helped. And Frank McKinney, a builder who has long experience in the market and also an author of several books that hopefully can help people with some of the questions they have. But we'll begin with Dr. Tosillo. Thank you very much, sir. As the Chief Economist for Florida Realtors, give us a sense of the trends in the market, both from the foreclosure aspect that we still deal with, to trends we're looking at today, to what the average person can have as a takeaway for where we stand right now. The snapshot, please.
Thank you, Michael. We have come through an unprecedentedly horrific period in housing. When the market began running up in 2003 until the bleeding stopped at the beginning of 2009. And during that period of time, many, many people lost their houses, they lost their entire financial wealth, and they're still trying to dig their way out. That said, I think now Florida is in a mini recovery. As I said to someone the other day, everything that's supposed to be going up is going up, and everything that's supposed to be going down is going down. And just to focus on the Treasure Coast, closed sales are up 10% June over June. Inventories down 41%. Pending sales are up 54%. In other words, we're seeing a mini recovery. And if you trace the price level of real estate or residential real estate during that period of time, what you basically see is that we've gone up, peaked at the beginning of 2007, bottomed out at the beginning of 2009, and since then, real estate prices have effectively been flat. Why? Because there are a lot of distressed properties coming on the market. Now, the market could be far more, shall we say, active if, in fact, we had two snags taken care of. One, the continued flow of distressed properties onto the market, and number two, restricted access to lending in the conventional market.
And I think that's a good jumping off point to a conversation we're going to continue to have through the broadcast. Some good news there, but barriers that still exist to the market. We're going to come back to that because you raised, as usual, excellent points. Kelly?
Yes, Michael, as we mentioned, we're going to be taking Facebook questions, and I want to go to Molly Reynolds right now and get our first one tonight from one of our Facebook friends.
We are getting a lot of questions on our Facebook page. This one's from Ed Bernard. He wants to know, is it a big gamble buying a foreclosure through an online auction? Is it possible there could be a lien or judgment with the property that you might not know about?
All right, let's pose this to Kevin Kent. Kevin, with all of your experience, do you think that's a risky thing, and buying a foreclosure through an online auction?
It absolutely could be a risky thing, and like she indicated, title issues are where you'd have the problem, because you don't know if you're getting clear title or not. Things could come back and bite you in the end. There are some companies, though, that deal with bank inventory, and they will only take offers online or in an online auction kind of format. So it kind of depends on who you're working with through that program.
So what kind of due diligence very quickly do you need to do to make sure you're not going to, make the bad choice here?
Very difficult question.
Yeah, okay.
You'd need to be working with a realtor through that,
Yep.
or with a real estate attorney to give you advice through that program.
Very good. Michael?
Paul, pick up on that as the Director of Homeowner Assistance with Paul Krasker Law Firm, because it's the kind of question, there aren't going to be any one-size-fits-all answers here tonight. We stress that, but we hope we get everybody on the path of beginning to think about help, professional help, which you need to avoid the pitfalls. One woman said, I've been dealing with this for years. Pick up on his answer. When do you know when to go? Where do you go for the resources on things like short sales? There's so much out there, people feel frozen. Give us a sense.
Well, we've always said that homeowners are looking for a reliable source of information. Many homeowners are very, very frustrated because they've approached the bank about various workout solutions and they still have not been able to reach some type of permanent solution. What we say is find a good, reliable source of information that knows about all the bank programs that are out there. We have a bank negotiation team at our firm, and I call them the heart and soul of our operation because they roll up their sleeves every day and they just bang on the banks for negotiations for our clients, whether they're modifications or short sales. And most homeowners are frustrated because they're trying for programs that they don't qualify for.
And one of the things we'll do tonight is try and give them a better sense of programs. Very, very quickly, short sales. Are we still seeing that have a wide impact on the market?
Absolutely.
Talk about that very quickly.
We think that the banks have opened the gate, so to speak, to more short sales, and we think it has to do with the difficulty they're having on foreclosing on properties. So it's a better way for them to move inventory.
I see heads shaking here. We're going to come back to this. We're giving you an overview now at home, but we are going to come back to this topic more in depth later in our broadcast. Kelly, for now, back to you.
Next question for Russ Holland. Want to find out about interest rates. And, you know, so many people talk about these historically low rates. So what kind of rates are we talking about for the average homeowner?
Well, absolutely. We are at historic lows in the market for interest rates. It's certainly affecting the sales in the market. You can get interest rates certainly under 4% in the 3% range, but it depends on which programs you're looking for. If you want a 30-year product or if you want to take an adjustable rate mortgage, there's different products for whatever your needs are. It really depends on what your objectives are. If you're going to be looking for a long-term fixed rate or you're looking for more flexibility in a lower rate product.
With so many people getting stung, though, is that 30-year fixed, has it come back in favor these days?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's historic lows, and you really can lock in a long-term rate and have it have the risk eliminated for 30 years.
Very good. Michael?
Armando Fano, let's pick up on that. As the director for the HUD office, the Housing and Urban Development office out of Miami, fundamentally what we're hearing here, a lot of programs, but people feel frozen. They say, I don't know where to begin first. Talk from the federal level, where they begin first. What's that first most critical step, and what kind of programs are you looking at there as an overview for now? We'll go into depth later.
Well, one of the things is if you're a home buyer, certainly to be an educated home buyer. One of the reasons we got into the mess we got into is because folks were buying homes without knowing the consequences of what they were getting into. One of the few forms of financing right now is FHA if you don't have a significant amount of down payment. So FHA is an opportunity for individuals to purchase with 3.5% down payment, which is unheard of in the market these days because the government is guaranteeing the loan. There's also programs through housing counseling agencies that offer counseling to first-time home buyers or even home buyers who have purchased a home before but really don't know what they're getting into.
Where do I go when I say I see all that out there, I don't know where to start?
Sure. People can go to our website, HUD.gov, and then get all the information on HUD-approved housing counseling agencies. Make sure they're HUD-approved. There's a lot of fraud going out there right now with agencies claiming to be government agencies when they're really just trying to take your money.
Best program out there to help distressed homeowners right now, or people who, if they're not in distress, are just trying to get through the thicket here and maybe buy or refi?
Well, there's a whole toolbox of programs that the government's put out there, whether it be HAMP or HARPs, modification programs, refinance programs. So it's not one size fits all. There's a toolbox, and people need to know. If they go to makinghomeaffordable.gov, that's a great website that gives you a really good overview of all the different programs that the government has that you may be able to fit into.
And you don't have to copy all this down. We have all this on our website, by the way, our Impact 5 website, but we're going to try and get you to those resources specifically. Kelly, that's all what the focus is tonight, to move you to that kind of help.
Exactly. I want to bring Frank McKinney in now. Frank, you've written, is it 5 books now, on achieving success in real estate. Talk about the opportunities that exist right now for people who want to come into the market.
Yeah, my most recent book, I went back and I studied 6 different real estate cycles dating back to the mid-'70s. The cycles tend to last about 6 years. We're at the end of this cycle. You've got a banker sitting right next to me who is offering interest rates at historic low levels. 3.49, I think they got to. They've started to creep up a little bit. Inventory is starting to come down. Builder sentiment is improving. Are you noticing the trend? The cycle that is upon us now is one of opportunity, of low-hanging fruit. That will go away eventually, and we'll be sitting here 5 years from now saying, it's a seller's market and it's very difficult for me to find a home. That is not the case now. Take advantage of the financing here, the lawyer that's here, the broker that can help you get into a house, because these days are going to be numbered. However painful it is now, the opportunity will go away, and that cycle will start again of property value appreciation. Hopefully a little bit more realistic this time than last time.
Absolutely. Frank, thank you. Michael?
Thank you very much, and we want to say to you that you can go to our website at WPTV.com and go to our Impact 5 section, and this isn't just a tonight thing. We've been at this for coming up on 9 months, and it's ongoing for the rest of the year and well beyond. That's part of this commitment where you can find the resources, where you can get the help, begin to get the answers. This is a beginning. It's not the end. We're with you on this all the way, but the resources you need, you can begin to look for those on our website, WPTV.com, at our Impact 5 site, and we'll have much more on all of that coming up as well. Kelly?
And we're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, where you can go for help, we'll have the story of a lot.
Welcome back live to the Port St. Lucie Civic Center as we continue with our live town hall, the Impact 5 look at our housing crisis and solutions we hope for you now and into the future.
Many homeowners are faced with the threat of foreclosure, and they really have to choose whether they're going to fight or whether they're just simply going to walk away. Tonight we want to introduce you to a Loxahatchee father who went to battle, and he was able to save much more than just his home.
Out in front of Mike Frank's Loxahatchee home is a father-son project, a nearly restored 1970 Chevy pickup.
This was our project. This was going to be our thing to do.
But halfway through the restoration, Mike's son, Andrew, was killed in a car accident.
Everything I do now, I fight for him.
That's why it was so important that when faced with the possibility of losing even more, he fought.
My son grew up here. He belonged here.
Not wanting to even think of foreclosure, the Franks asked their bank for a modification.
You have to take action for yourself. And if you don't take action for yourself, who's to blame?
But the modification he got wasn't enough. The payments were still too high.
Mr. Frank came in a little distressed.
Fabian Silnick, a senior mitigation executive at the law office of Paul Krasker, says Frank hired the firm to help.
We ended up, after 6 or 7 months, getting a really wonderful modification for him.
Silnick says the bank wasn't abiding by the Making Home Affordable guidelines, which puts a cap amount on how much of your income goes towards your mortgage.
Unfortunately, when a homeowner tries to do it on their own, they don't necessarily have the proper guidance, and sometimes the bank takes advantage of that.
Frank was able to save his home, but not without hiring someone.
If you love your home, we love our home. No matter where you go, no matter what you're going to do, there's a cost involved.
The misconceptions are that they do have to pay a lot of money, but realistically, it is very fair, the costs that are incurred to try to resolve these type of situations.
Frank says he couldn't afford to lose the memories.
We spent our life here. You know, that's the whole point of it is.
And joining me now, Mike Frank, the homeowner you saw in that story. Thank you very much for being here tonight. You tried for a long time to get that modification yourself, trying to do it on your own. Looking back, why did it take so long?
It was very difficult. The banks just didn't want to work with us. They were just so foul. They just were difficult. They just wouldn't work. They didn't want to do nothing.
Was it the constant, we need this paperwork, or did they lose? I mean, what were the pitfalls you went through?
Most paperwork, income, paperwork, income. It was just nothing about money, 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 and then it was paperwork. And it was just over and over and over again, and we filed and filed and filed, and it would just get nowhere. And it would just get turned down, get turned down, and get turned down. And it came to a point where it just it got sickening. We knew that something was going to come down to it, and we had to do something, and we really had to make a turn.
Well, and I know Paul Baltram was someone who was helpful to you. And Paul, let's address this question, because so many people are trying for these modifications. What are the big, what are the big stumbling blocks? Why do you never hear people getting a modification these days?
We get the question all the time, Paul, how are you guys getting these done? And I wasn't able to get it done on my own. I was turned down 4 times, and I'm frustrated. One main thing, and I hate to say it, it's good old-fashioned hard work and persistency. We average 72 contacts with the bank on one modification file. And so we've identified, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, that's what it takes to get approved. The other important thing to do also is, if you're trying to apply for a modification, talk to someone and have them run some numbers to make sure you fit into that particular program that you're applying for. If it's the HAMP modification program, or if it's one of the bank's internal programs, there's specific calculations and guidelines that the bank go by. So have someone look at those numbers and see if you qualify. That way you're not fighting a losing battle right from the very start.
Very good, and congratulations that you were able to save your home, and all the best to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If it wasn't for the Krasker Law Group, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Well, we're glad you have a happy ending to your story. We appreciate it. Michael?
Russ Holland, a mortgage banker with Seacoast National, here to help. We hear the frustrating stories, but a lot of people are saying we want to help. The average person saying, listen, I'm bewildered by the numbers.
Right.
Where's my point person? How do I go to a bank? How do I begin the loan modification? Give basic fundamental advice to the average person who says, I just want to start and get somebody to listen and to help. Talk about that.
Right. That's a very unfortunate situation. I'm glad that it worked out and your firm was able to help, and certainly that's not how it should happen. That's just not how it should work. And I would suggest the first thing you do try to contact whoever is servicing your mortgage. Try to see if there is someone on the other end that will listen and will work with you. At Seacoast, we do try to make it different, make it a different experience, and do try to work with you.
How high is the hurdle to get a loan modification right now, or how low? How difficult, how easy? Where is it compared to a year or two?
It does depend on who's on the other end of the phone.
Sure,
I mean, that's why I say first try to see who is on the other end of the phone. You may have an experience that's different. We hope, we expect that experience is different at community banks. Sometimes, at the larger banks, you end up with 72 points of contact, and that's unfortunate. So I would say make that point of contact. See what the hurdle is. See what kind of response you get.
Armando Fano with HUD briefly. Where do you go find the bulldog if you're at home, the one to help bulldog this through for you, and pick up on his comment briefly?
Sure, and a reputable lawyer is a good place to go, but certainly the housing counseling agencies, again, they've been dealing with this for several years now. They are free of charge. They do not charge anything for these services. These HUD-approved housing counseling agencies, they've been working with the banks and the lenders and servicers now for several years. They have contacts. There's ways that they have to elevate cases so that when you have a case like this one that was stuck in the process, there's a way they can elevate it through the Making Home Affordable program. So go with the housing counseling agencies. Do not pay an upfront fee, because it's illegal in the state of Florida if you're doing that. And there are plenty of services out there available. Don't try to do it on your own. It's a really difficult process, as we heard, and one that really needs more professional help.
And we're going to make sure, Kelly, that we get people specific resources so they know they're going to a legit agency. Back to you, Kelly.
Absolutely. I'm joined now by Harry O'Brien. Harry has been trying to go through a loan modification for 4 years now, Harry?
Correct.
And something, sadly, is taking place tomorrow.
Right. The house goes on the auction block in Palm Beach County tomorrow. The bank don't want to negotiate.
Why? What are they telling you? What's the answer?
Nothing. I've been working with the Urban League of Palm Beach County, and they told them the same thing. Yesterday, they said, sorry, we can't help you.
What types of things, what hoops have you had to jump through over 4 years? And
I've dealt with Linton and dealt with Aquin, and neither one of them. And I also dealt with NACA. NACA dropped me like a hot tomato.
And I know it's been very difficult for you with health issues,
with
but also with your wife too.
Falling out, my wife's health falling out. It's been a difficult thing, and I think the banks themselves should pay us back after we bailed them out. That's my thought, and they're not doing it.
That's something you hear a lot of people say. You're certainly not alone in that. I want to bring in Frank McKinney.
I have one more thing. Also, the banks do not recognize a vet in this state. They won't deal with you. So that's my option to come back for a lawsuit. They failed. They don't want to deal with me because I'm a vet. I'm retired. I spent 20 years in defending this country, and this is what happens? Nah, not in my book. Somebody will pay.
We're going to try to get you hooked up with the right
Thank you
people
very much,
after we're
and
done.
pleasure
Yeah,
meeting you.
hold on. Oh, you too, Harry. Here, you go ahead and sit right down. I want to bring in Frank McKinney. Frank, you've heard of these kind of very unfortunate situations. What is a person to do?
What is your first name, sir?
Harry.
Harry, I mean, how many people out here know somebody like Harry? A lot of us, right? Harry, I hope somebody watching this tonight who is a lawyer who can go to that courthouse tomorrow and stop that sale. Call the station and stop this man's sale. It's possible. There are ways we can get in front of those pendants, we can stop it. 20 years service to our country. I hear it all the time. Unfortunately, Harry didn't get introduced to a solution like Paul has early enough. Harry's house might not be able to be saved, and that is a tragedy. But for those who understand that there is a problem, if it's 72 times you got to pick up the phone to make it happen, you got to do that. You got to save that house. He might be able to cut that in half, and you call him first, and maybe he'll make the loan on the first call, right?
Frank?
I'm feeling for you, Harry, and I hope somebody watching will do something for you.
And what we want to do is, as we move on into our segments, because what we're hearing here is allow people to get to the very specific help. It's good general advice. What we're hearing is give me a specific go-to person. You began to talk about that. We'll talk about that more in our next segment. And we want to remind you, though, that you can go to our website to get your list of resources here, our Impact 5 resources at WPTV.com. We're hearing you here live, loud and clear. I'm sure some of you at home are sitting there saying the exact same thing. I see people nodding in the audience. We're going to dig a little deeper on all that as we come back, Kelly.
That's right. And still to come tonight on our special broadcast here, Getting Prepared for Home Ownership. We take golf lessons, we take cooking classes. What about buying a house, though? It's a lesson that can keep you out of foreclosure.
Is this a good time to buy a home? Is it a good time to sell? And where are you if you're somewhere between one or the other? We're going to tackle that topic.
And if you have questions at home, we encourage you right now to email us, tweet us, or Facebook us and let us know what you have to say. We do have a social media site. You can send those questions into WPTV's Facebook page. Also, our Twitter account, it's at WPTV with the hashtag Impact5, or you can email it at impact5@WPTV.com. We'll be back in a moment with more of our live town hall discussion after this. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our Impact 5 Town Hall discussion on the housing crisis. We appreciate you being part of this tonight, and thank you very much for watching. And for those of us who are in our audience, thank you very much for your presence tonight. For some people who have been waiting to go from renter to buyer, this could be the time.
We're hearing that. It's a scary time, but it could be your opportunity. Nonetheless, one expert after another says you have to be prepared before you make that leap. You have to become educated and have everything lined up before you decide to move on. And we take a look at those efforts tonight and how they can pay off and how important some South Floridians are finding them to be as they try to climb out of the housing crisis and give themselves new hope. Leah Autar is ready to leave her Boca Raton rental. She wants a new home for herself and her 10-year-old son.
Purchasing a home for me would be a dream come true.
She says the key to getting there, first-time homebuyer classes.
Here I was thinking, as a new resident of Florida, I never thought that that I would be able to own a home.
HUD-approved counseling opens the doors to grants and various programs for buyers, even those with low incomes.
It only makes sense to understand the process you're about to go through.
Kevin Marr, a HUD-approved housing counselor, worked with the TAR when her search began.
You should be prepared to know what kind of questions to ask and how to do your own research and how to compare, the different people that are going to be involved in your home purchase team.
I actually learned a lot, things that I have never heard of.
Things such as buying insurance and preparing her credit.
There have been many studies that have shown that people that did go through first-time homebuyer counseling and took classes, the foreclosure rate on those first-time home buyers is actually substantially lower than on the general population that didn't get any counseling.
The Center for Housing Policy says studies show pre-purchase counseling can reduce delinquency rates by as much as 50%, but at least one study reported no impact at all.
We're there to try to help you make the best decision for yourself. We're not there to make a decision for you, but to give you the tools to make your own good decisions.
For Attar, that's investing in a home she can afford, so she doesn't fall victim like so many Americans hit hard in the housing crisis.
I'm not going to let that intimidate me. I'm going to keep moving forward and keep, keep my focus and head towards my goal.
Back live now at the Port St. Lucie Civic Center with our Impact 5 initiative, our town hall meeting, and also we thank you for joining us from the electronic town home, from your television set and online right now. Let's talk a little more about first-time buyers who want to get into the market. Armando Fana with HUD. Talk about programs out there. You've touched on it. Dig a little deeper on programs out there. For somebody who says, I do feel a little better, I want to make the plunge. How do they do it?
Sure.
Where do they go specifically?
Again, being an educated consumer, get one of those HUD-approved housing counseling agencies.
And where do they have a website or something?
Sure, they can go to our HUD.gov website and they can find HUD-approved housing counseling agencies within the area. There's also programs that provide first-time homebuyer assistance through St. Lucie County. St. Lucie County Housing Department has programs for first-time homebuyers. Also, the Palm Beach County Department of Economic Sustainability has programs for first-time homebuyers. There was a huge program that came out a few years ago called the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, which is for opportunities for local governments to purchase foreclosed and abandoned properties and resell them to eligible buyers, and they can be up to 120% of the area median income. So it's great opportunities out there. Take advantage of them through your local government agencies. It is HUD funding, but it is through your local government. So contact your local government, go to the housing counseling agencies, and they will guide you on the way.
We'll come back to this in a moment. Kelly?
That's right. I'm joined by one of the members of our audience. Marissa Suarez is from Palm Beach Gardens. Thank you very much for being here tonight. She wants to be a homeowner.
Absolutely.
What's your question?
Well, I was wondering at this point in time, what are the deals out there? Are there still good deals available with foreclosure, short sales, and how do you get into that? How do you find out what you need to know?
Let's pose that to Kevin Kent. Are there great deals out there? Can you get a bargain?
There are still deals out there. Obviously, you need to work with a realtor to find the best deals out there. The market for first-time home buyers, the affordability index is better than it's been in a long, long time. We had ramped up so high, our prices were so high, but now they've come down to where they're affordable again. And look at some of the programs that are out there. FHA is a great alternative to get into a home with a low down payment. But there are still deals out there. The inventory is shrinking, though.
But don't you have to have time on your side, especially if you're trying to buy a short sale?
Yeah.
You need some time, right?
A short sale takes some time to work through that process.
Yeah, I'm not in any kind of rush. What I'm looking for is a good deal and making sure that we have everything in line and we can get through it successfully.
Mm-hmm. Even the arm's length transactions that are out there, the normal sellers selling their houses, they know they have to compete with the foreclosures and the short sales that are out there. So there are good deals that are not short sales out there right now, too.
Yeah, I think there are two other things to remember. Number one is you've got to get your credit resume into absolutely platinum condition.
Perfect.
Less than perfect really doesn't cut it in today's market. And the second thing is you've got to understand there's a great difference between a Seacoast National Bank and a Wells Fargo. Seacoast is a community bank, is going to be operating closer to you with more personal contact as opposed to having to buck decisions up to Charlotte and wait for them to come back. So it's going to be a lot easier and a lot more personal. In the end, it's going to work out for you better dealing with a community bank rather than one of the large national banks.
Well, Marissa, very good luck to you.
Kelly,
you find the best house out there and the best bargain.
Russ Holland wants to jump in from Seacoast.
What I would add to that is also what you need to do is get pre-qualified so you know what you can afford. Right. So when you go in and make that offer, you actually have your pre-approval in hand.
Qualified, good credit.
And I'm sorry, just one more comment. If you are going to purchase a short sale, I think it's important to go in with the right expectations. It can be a lengthy process. There's no guarantee that you're going to get the price under the listing agreement, so you're going to have to be very patient and understanding. If you go in with the right expectations, it'll be a lot easier than going in with the wrong.
Very good.
What's the risk plus or minus on the pricing?
The risk?
Because you said it might not be at the list price. What's the risk plus or minus on the pricing?
You won't know until the bank
it's hard to
comes back
tell.
with their
Yeah, exactly.
price.
All right, Marissa, thank you very, very much. All right, we'll continue our discussion here in Port St. Lucie at the Civic Center right after this break. Welcome back, everyone, to our live town hall discussion on the housing crisis. Molly Reynolds, a question from one of our Facebook friends. We have a lot of questions tonight.
We do. We have a lot of questions about refinancing. This one's from Jim in Jensen Beach. He's underwater, never missed a payment, and wants to know if he should use the HARP program to refinance, or is there another way to lower his mortgage payment?
Okay, let's begin with Paul Baltram. Good question, because a lot of people, they're underwater, they haven't missed anything. They need to refinance, and they can't.
Absolutely. Go for the HARP refinance. Earlier this year, the government identified, what are we going to do for homeowners that are paying their mortgages on time, but they can't refinance because they're underwater and they can't take advantage of the low interest rates that we have, 3-4%. So if you're current on your mortgage, absolutely apply for the HARP refinance.
So, but a lot of people, they're so used to refinancing. So I think some people just think, well, there's got to be something. I know HARP, but you've got to meet those qualifications.
Absolutely. And I think the mortgage professionals now will pre-screen applicants right off the bat and take a look at them, so they're not wasting the homeowner's time, and they can only work on the files that they know they can get done.
Very good.
Very, very quickly, to anyone who wants to raise their hand, has the best answer. I still think the audience is saying, where do I go get the person who can help me cut through all that red tape? Russ?
Again, I'm going to say, if you have the mortgage, call whoever is servicing that mortgage and start there. And that is the place to start.
And take it. And I see our economist shaking his head, and we'll talk to our HUD director a little bit more. Kelly?
That's right. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back live to the Port St. Lucie Civic Center as we continue our discussion on the housing crisis. I want to pose a question from the audience to our panel. Why do you have to be past due on a mortgage to get a modification or a short sale? Who wants to tackle that?
Well, technically under the HAMP program and the other programs, you don't have to be past due. You just have to be able to show hardship.
It's the perception, though.
It is a
People
perception,
think you have to be late.
and a lot of that has to do, particularly when these programs first came online a couple of years ago, they weren't really, even though that rule's been there for a while, they really weren't doing the modifications unless you fell behind on your mortgage payment. And unfortunately, I hear a lot of times people giving that advice, fall behind your mortgage payment so you can start getting some assistance. And because of the overwhelming number of applicants that were looking for modifications or refis, really that's what the lenders were focusing on. As the pipeline, so to speak, has got a little bit smaller, I think you're starting to see a little bit more. I'm hearing a few more cases now where even if you're not behind your mortgage, but you can show a hardship and you're not able to make your payment, that you can get a modification, but it's not an easy process.
As we move to the back end of our live town hall, I think people sitting there at home are saying, what's the one best tip each one of you can give me to help cut the red tape, ease my headaches, help me get through the foreclosure, the short sale, or the new purchase if I don't have platinum credit, as you said earlier, Dr. DeSillo. Let's begin with you, Frank, and move down the line with your one thought that you don't want to leave them with.
You prefaced her situation with, she's feeling better, so she wants to do. The first thing is, we have to take a contrarian approach to the negativity that permeates the airwaves that says the mortgage market is dead, the American dream is dead and will never come back. Once you change the mindset, go out and get a PhD in paradoxicology. It's a made-up word, but it makes sense. We have to change the mindset, Michael, and everybody listening, before we can start taking advantage of the statistics, the HUD programs, the broker, the realtor, the lawyer, and the bank.
Mr. Holland?
I agree. Take advantage of the opportunities that are out there in this real estate market, but this time, find the right bank partner. Think about who you're going to partner with when you make that purchase, so that the bank you work with really is somebody you can communicate with down the road, not somebody that you can't find when you really want to have a discussion and you have to bring in a lawyer and have a couple hundred phone calls and unfortunately end up at the courthouse steps because you can't have a conversation.
Speaking to people that are in the distressed situation, I'd say find that good, reliable source of information that you know you can count on, somebody that can help you give a good recommendation to create a permanent solution to your problem. If you are facing foreclosure and you are going to hire a foreclosure attorney, make sure that foreclosure attorney is also equipped with helping you on a permanent solution. Just because you hire a foreclosure attorney to defend a foreclosure doesn't mean all your problems are solved. You still need somebody to help with the bank negotiations, whether it's a short sale, if you want to exit the property, or if it's a modification, if you prefer to stay in the property.
Mr. Kent?
What I've experienced in the field is just like we've seen a lot of the frustration that people have had here in the audience that have tried to get modifications done. It seems like that's generally the first step people try to do. A lot of people were rolled on by the economy. They lost their jobs. They're trying to do modifications. They're not getting modifications done because they can't show the income. They don't know what to do next. The next thing is typically looking at the short sale process. The banks are open to working through other scenarios to get through the process. But you have to know there are still solutions out there. Like everyone has said, just talk to professionals that can help you through the process.
Mr. Fana?
I sound like a broken record, but HUD.gov, HUD-approved housing counseling agencies, they can get you assistance with home purchase and with your refinance and with your foreclosure issues.
And doctor?
Well, I think I'm going to become a paradoxicologist. Thank you, Frank. That's
Once
a great,
we all look it up.
great idea. The other thing I would add to this is be aggressive. Take your own case into your own hands. If you think something's coming down the road, get to the end of the road before the creditors do. Banks are more than willing now to really talk short sale. Now, the process may be long and it may be involved and may require the services of an expert professional, but start the process yourself. Don't let the process get started on you, because if you get into the passive position, then the big institution is going to control you. But right now, let's face it, banks don't want to own real estate. They'd much rather do a short sale than take a foreclosure. Take advantage of that, be aggressive, take control of your own situation, and start the solution proceedings before the finance company or the bank thinks of it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tosillo. And we'll be back to talk about some closing comments, some final words, so a last bit of hope for you when we continue after this. Monica Smith has patiently been sitting in our audience tonight. I know you have a question for the panel. Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Yeah, for the panel. My question is, when I try to negotiate with my lender, which is Freddie Mac, they send me letters upon letters, and all with the telephone numbers, 1-800 numbers, they go all the way to India. They tell you, you call this number. When you call, it's going to India, and that's where it stops, like you talking to a robot. You get nowhere from there.
And that is such a frustration that we've been discussing tonight.
We hear
You
it
get
all the
nowhere.
time. All of you are very reasoned gentlemen, but people say the reality is that. Paul, all of you are shaking your head. How do you help her?
Well, the banks have a system that they use, so they need documentation at different periods of time. What I would recommend is to send the documentation and then give them a follow-up call after you send that documentation in to make sure they receive that document, so that your file keeps moving forward. Persistent calls are the keys once you send in the documents, and whether you go through a law firm or you go through a HUD counselor, find someone that can help you, that understands the system, that have done it before, so you don't have to try to do it on your own.
Ma'am, he's the guy. Go to him and he'll fix it for you.
And we'll hold their feet to the fire.
No, we'll pitch in and pay the fee. You'll help.
The answers that you gave me is what you told me to do is the same thing I keep doing. I keep faxing all the documents that they ask for. You keep getting the same letters, sometimes twice a week, the same thing. This is your relationship manager. When I try to get through to her, it's all went to India.
I think the point is just don't try to do it yourself. Get somebody, whether it be a law firm or a housing counseling agency, that can do it for you, because especially with a Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae loan, they have direct contacts with these individuals, and they work with them every day. They can elevate your case, whereas you're going to have a hard time. You're going to keep getting transferred from place to place. They have somebody to go to. The housing counseling agencies are free. If you have a law firm such as this one that's reputable, go for that as well.
And everyone will be here, Ms. Smith, after we finish. So have a seat. Thank you very, very much.
We'll make sure they don't get away from you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Kelly.
And a final thought, crystal balls, in a year from now. Where are we
You know
going
what?
to be?
I'm just glad that the media is allowing us to share solutions for a change and not just the problem.
Will it be
So
better a
thank
year
you.
from now?
Oh, you better buy now, because as John says, prices are going up.
Russ, closing comment.
Interest rates are low, and they're not going to be low forever.
Paul?
We are seeing a turnaround with the banks, working homeowners on modifications and short sales, as was said before. So we're seeing a nice turn.
Now's the time. Normally you say it's a one-sided seller's market or a buyer's market. Right now it's a great seller's market and a great buyer's market. So now is the time.
Great refi market, Tim?
With the right bank, yes, sir.
That's right.
I'm bullish on Florida. I think Florida's the best place in the world to live, and I think a lot of people do as well, and that's why we got so many international investors coming here, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for all of us.
Very quick thought on that. I get a lot of complaints from people saying I'm being edged out by cash-only buyers. How do you deal with that?
Absolutely. The smart money is here. Frank was absolutely right. We're beginning to see the upturn in a new cycle, but it's being driven by investors who are cash buyers, and that's working against the interests of individuals who are looking to finance houses.
Very quickly, how do I compete with that if I'm not a cash buyer, I'm a regular guy?
One offer.
Well, you basically have to go in and find a banker who's going to work with you personally, number one. Number two is you've got to have absolutely platinum credit. And number three is you've got to be aggressive in dealing with your case.
And get your pre-approval.
And your pre-approval.
And your pre-approval. Be ready. Have all your ducks in a row.
Real quickly, because I know there was one quick thing in the audience that was mentioned. Are people coming back to Port St. Lucie after so much hardship in the housing market here? They coming back?
Census numbers say they are. One of the other factors in the resurgence of the Florida housing market is that folks who abandoned us when the crash came are coming back because now they have the wherewithal to do it because the stock market's up.
We want to wrap it up real quick and thank our panelists very, very much for offering so much good information.
And we thank all of you for being here and all of you at home and online for being part of our live Impact 5 Town Hall here at the Port St. Lucie Civic Center.
We will continue the discussion on News Channel 5 and our broadcasts, also online on our Impact 5 site. As we said, that we'll have our experts here for all of our fine people that came with us, and we thank you very much for inviting us into your home tonight.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Now, a WPTV editorial. Here's our general manager.
The state is sitting on a pile of money that could help those hardest hit by the housing crisis. Florida received $1 billion from the Fed's TARP fund to be used for mortgage payment assistance and reinstatement. Remarkably, only about $132 million has been used. Now, the state has until 2017 to spend the rest. As with most federal programs, the process is encumbered in red tape. The challenge is to figure out the best way to use the money and serve those most in need. A lofty goal for sure, but the needs are right now. Too many people are suffering and they are praying for a lifeline. WPTV urges the state to try and expedite the process and come to the rescue for so many Floridians who are feeling the pain of the housing crisis. I'm Steve Wasserman. Let me hear from you.
This has been a WPTV editorial. Send us your comments.